As a pastor, I've performed and conducted many funerals along the way. And funerals are a difficult scene, a difficult environment, because you're walking through grief. You're walking through mourning. And in every funeral, typically, we're mourning through two different things. The first is the obvious. You're mourning for that loved one that is lost. But the second thing that we're mourning over, that a lot of times we don't even recognize or acknowledge, or we don't even know how to voice it. And what we're mourning over is the reality of what is going on here, and that is life is not permanent. I'm not permanent. And we're mourning the reality of that fact, and it hits us pretty hard. And through this journey, through the book of Ecclesiastes, we're going to be dealing with that. In fact, this series is really loosely based off a book of the same name called Living Life Backwards. And I encourage you, if you want to dig a little bit deeper, do some devotional time throughout the week. This is a great thing to pick up. It's a great devotional that you can do along this series as well. But what we're dealing with here is the reality that life is not permanent. In fact, life is temporary. Life is temporary. In other words, there is a reality with death. And that's what's hard to swallow. I think that's what's hard for us to face sometimes. And I'm going to be honest, this is kind of a little bit of a not the most exciting message in the world. But I want you to bear with me, because as we journey through today and through the next several weeks of this book, we see the reality is not so much about death, but how to live well. How to live well with this. Because what's the struggle is life is temporary, and there's a reality with this. However, with this reality, what happens in our lives, myself included, is this is scary. This is hard. We don't really want to think about it or process it. And so we often live our lives trying to escape the thought of the reality of the permanency of death, that is a fact. We have a date with death. We have an expiration date on our lives. And so we try to live our lives in such a way that we're constantly distracting ourselves with the reality of death. And this makes it hard, it makes it challenging, because we don't want to think about this. And through Ecclesiastes, the teacher, as you'll learn through this book is written by this guy, he calls himself the teacher, is this illusion that we need to distract ourselves. It's almost like we create this pretend environment and this pretend reality for ourselves that I've got time, I've got life. Let's focus on the here and now. And we've created the illusion that we don't have a meeting with death, when in reality, we do. Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 2 starts off like this. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher. Utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. The Hebrew word there for that word meaningless is a Hebrew word that is hevel. And the best way to describe this Hebrew word hevel is it's a breath. It's a mist. It's this smoke that just comes and goes. It's something that is like almost there, but never really was. That's that word. There's so much depth to it. It's I'm trying to chase something, but then it's gone. It's here for a moment, then just dissipates and goes away. In Psalms 39, verses 5 through 6, it's written, "You have made my days a mere handbreadth. The span of my years is as nothing before you. Everyone is but a breath, even those who seem secure. Surely everyone goes around like a mere phantom. In vain they rush about, heaping up wealth, without knowing whose it will finally be." And then in verse 11, it says, "When you rebuke and discipline anyone for their sin, you consume their wealth like a moth. Surely everyone is but a breath." And the Hebrew word there is but a hevel. That's all we are. And the reality of that permanency, we don't really like to own or face. And so oftentimes we live in such a way that we try to distract ourselves from the reality that one day we have a date with death. That's hard. It's hard. That life is like this, almost there, but never quite there. It's just this moving shadow that we can never really grab a hold of or get. Because the whole point in all this, and what the teacher's trying to get to, what we see in Psalm 39, is that life is short. Not only is it temporary, but it's short. I mean, do you remember when you were a kid and a year actually felt like a year? Do you remember that? That was amazing. Right? It's like when you come into summer, school is out, it's like, I got all summer. And summer's so long, it actually, you get bored sometimes. It's crazy. And then it takes forever to get to Thanksgiving. I can eat all this food. And then from Thanksgiving to Christmas, it seems like an eternity to get there. And now it's like, hey guys, get ready, 2024 is about to, it's almost done? How did we get here? How's the year over? I don't have time to prepare anymore. And that's life. Life just moves and goes, and it's such a fast pace, and it just seems like as you get older, the time gets shortened. Because as we get older, we get to grasp the reality that life is, it's just a breath. It's just a breath. It's here and gone. You know, the teacher in Ecclesiastes is actually, to give you a picture of what he's trying to define what life is kind of like this. And just bear with me as I play with fire for a little bit. I'm a Boy Scout, so like Boy Scouts, we always had to play with fire, right? And so here we are right now. These are Shelley's amazing candles from home, so that's going to smell really good here for a moment. But this is life. Life is here. And in a moment, it's gone. That's the picture that the teacher is trying to get us to comprehend. Life is smoke. It's short. It's temporary. It's here. And then it's gone. It comes and goes. I mean, have you ever been in that place, and maybe you have, like, just like me, where you get to this place and you're looking at yourself in the mirror, and as you look at yourself in the mirror, all of a sudden all these questions race through your mind, very basic questions, like, how did I get here? What happened to me? I wasn't a complete stud, but I was a little bit more studly than this. I had a little bit more hair. And hair that was more dark than gray, right? What happened? Where did it all go? And that's what we struggle with. The grip of reality that life is short and life is temporary, and it's just like this mist, this smoke that just is there then gone and just dissipates. In Proverbs 31 verse 30, it's written, charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. You know, the struggle is we've convinced ourselves, since we distract ourselves with the reality that life is short and temporary, that we chase the things in this world, but the reality is this too. Not only is life short and temporary, but life is elusive. It's elusive. It's difficult to find. It's just something that we're always chasing, but we never get. We never achieve. We're never there. It's just like it's further. It's further. I can't get there. I can't find it. Life is difficult. Because life escapes us in the reality of this never-ending quest to answer some basic questions. Where do I find my significance? Where do I find my hope? Where do I find my completeness? And we think that the answers to those questions are found in everything we chase in this life, but life is it's short, it's temporary. It's elusive, and because of that, we struggle with control. We try to control our lives. We try to control the things we're chasing. We're trying to control the way we look or feel because we're trying to gravitate towards hope and significance in a life that is constantly in a world full of death. And we wrestle with that. We struggle with control because we realize I don't really have control. In Psalm 103, verses 15 through 16, it says, "The life of mortals is like grass. They flourish like a flower of the field. The wind blows over it, and it is gone, and its place remembers it no more." See, here's the problem, friends. Here's the reality of the struggle that I think we're all in. We've convinced ourselves to live in such a way that we pretend like we are permanent. But we're not. We're smoke. We're mist. We're a breath that's here and gone. With that being said, we convince ourselves and we pretend like it's going to be somebody else that gets the bad news. It's going to be somebody else who has that car accident. Somebody else who gets the phone call with the bad news about their health. It's going to be somebody else who goes to work tomorrow to find out they lost their work and everything's gone. Somebody else is going to have that happen to me, not me. And we've convinced ourselves to pretend that life is permanent, that we've got this, that if I can gain this, then I can control it and have hope. But when those things diminish and go, because charm is deceptive and fleeting, and this world is not permanent and constantly decaying and going away, when we realize that's not our source of hope, it breaks us. Which leads the teacher in Ecclesiastes to wrestle with this verse, or this question in verse 3 of chapter 1. What do people gain from all their labors at which they toil under the sun? You see, in this moment, what the teacher in Ecclesiastes is doing, he's developing his argument that's going to be carried out through his entire writing of Ecclesiastes. And I ask you to bear with me because it's going to be a journey over the next few weeks as we walk through this, and the reality of this is not about death, this is actually about life and what he means by this. And he's building his argument with this question that drives everything. And the question is, what is our gain with all the effort we put into this life? What is our gain with everything we chase in this life? What is the gain in this? What are we going after? In the next several verses, he lays it out and kind of develops his argument on this. But his quick answer to this is nothing. Your gain is nothing. Because life is, it's a breath. It's here and gone. And the challenge is we're dealing here with a different view of life, looking at life from a different angle. And guys, I get it. This is scary. It's scary to kind of step back and adjust our angle and how we view life from we're permanent and we're here and all this stuff to, no, I got to look at it from a different angle with the reality that I have a date with death. I don't know when that is, but I have a date with death, and that's reality, and I'm not permanent. And it's scary for me to think about that. It is very scary. And the reality is, when we face that and we come to grips that we're in this life that is a losing battle, and it's this constant chase of something that will give us hope and significance, but it's never really there. I'm never satisfied. I'm never quite there. So what does this mean? Maybe when I adjust the lens of my view, I can actually learn how to live well. can actually learn how to live with hope rather than brokenness. Significance rather than always chasing something to try to define me. The teacher in Ecclesiastes continues on in verse 4 through 8. Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows to the south and turns to the north. Round and round it goes, ever returning on its course. All streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. To the place the streams come from, there they return again. All things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. What the teacher is saying here, when we realize all this chasing we do in this world, is that life is like the sea. You know, what he's describing there is the sea. It's never full. It's never satisfied. There's water always being evaporated and water always being poured in, but it's never full. It's never satisfied. And life is just like that. You see, in life, we never reach a point of complete satisfaction. We never get to this point to where I finally got it all. I'm happy. I'm satisfied. And in those moments when we achieve it, it only lasts for a breath, a moment. Because you know why? God did not create us to be completely satisfied in this life. And when we try to find all of our satisfaction in this life, we miss it because this life was never the place to be satisfying us. Verse 9 through 10, the teacher goes on. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There's nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which one can say, look, this is something new? It was here already long ago. It was here before our time. And here the teacher continues in his argument by saying, guess what? In this life, history is always repeating itself. There is nothing new under the sun. Nothing new. And we struggle with this because deep down we all have a level of FOMO. You know what that is? Fear of missing out. And we all wrestle with that fear of missing out of something. And so when that ingrains within us, what happens is we always want some new experience, because if we get a new experience, then that will bring me hope and significance and purpose and something about me. It's kind of like iPhones, right? I'll be honest with you, my family, they got us hook, line, sinker. And what happens is every single year, the next iPhone comes out. You know, it's like iPhone 2022, right? Coming out tomorrow. And all of a sudden it's like, I need that phone. Why? Well, because this new camera, it can take pictures. I mean, you can zoom in and take pictures of ants and ant holes. No way. I never knew I needed to take a picture of an ant hole. I need that phone. I can't be happy unless I experience that. Right? It still has a camera. And that's the struggle we all live in. You know what the teacher's getting at here, he's not saying there's not going to be new discoveries, but what he is saying is you will not discover anything new that will satisfy you. We're just in the same world, spinning and turning, spinning and turning, spinning and turning. And this life will not satisfy you and never will. There's nothing new that you will find in this world to satisfy you. It's not there. This life does not provide that because it's temporary, it's short, it's elusive. It comes and goes. It's just a... And then the teacher goes on in verse 11. No one remembers the former generations, and even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. This is the verse that I think we wrestle with a little bit, because it gives a little bit of a punch in the gut and a little checkpoint. What he's saying there is, you know, we don't always remember what happened. We may have experience like, hey, this person was great in my life, they meant so much to me, they poured into me, or this experience happened, and then 5 years down the road, we completely forget about it. We forget about them. And the truth is, people come and go, things come and go, and we always forget about the lessons we've learned from those in the past and what their lives provided us. And I think the deeper thing that's a little scary to think about what this verse is implying, one day I'm going to be forgotten. One day death will come to me and life will move on. And everybody will be like, Bill who? What's that? I look up, who's that weird guy in the picture? Oh, I kind of remember that guy. I remember some stories about him. He was a knucklehead. And this is the verse that comes to grips with the reality that life is not permanent. You know what Ecclesiastes is getting to, friends? Here's the point. Here's what's saying. If you're looking for hope, stop grasping at smoke. Stop grasping at this life, trying to achieve something in this life to gain significance and hope, because this life was never to be the thing that gives you significance, because it's just a breath. It just comes and goes. It's elusive. There's so many things we try to trace in this world to define us and give us significance, and we just never get it. We never arrive. Stop grasping at that. So I guess it leads us to the question, then what do I do with all this? The reality is we need to prepare to die. Well, Bill, that's not a fun talk. But I believe that if we adjust our view and start to view life in the reality that death is the one certain thing, we all have a meeting there. It will really drive us not to be broken, but actually to live life to the fullest. Live life with hope. Live life with the reality that, guess what? There's something beyond this world, this life. Because here's the challenge. Here's the challenge, what we tend to do. We take Ecclesiastes and the words from the teacher, and we as followers of Jesus say, boy, the people who don't know Jesus, they really need this. They need this. But guess what? That was not the point of the teacher. What the teacher's driving to here is this. Friends, we all live in the same world. Every person that has the breath of life lives in the same world. And this reality is a common reality for every person. Death doesn't care what you believe. Death doesn't care where you came from. Death doesn't care how high you climbed up the corporate ladder or what an amazing athlete you are or a musician. Death doesn't care how rich you are. Death is coming for everyone. One day we all have the same appointment. And that's the reality that the teacher's trying to get to. This is the world we live in, and it's a world consumed with death. And the purpose behind this teacher writing this is not to make us live in gloom and doom, but to make us live with a mindset of stop pretending that this is not real and start facing the reality so that you can live well. You can truly live well when you face the reality. And that's the message that the teacher is trying to get to here. Stop pretending and live life well with a bigger hope, a bigger significance. And so please stick with us over the next few weeks, because this is the journey we're going to be going on. It's not about death. It's actually about life and what I can expect in life and should not expect in life as we pursue Jesus together. You see, the point is this: a life lived well with the end in mind is a life lived well. A life lived with the end in mind is a life lived well, and that's what we're chasing. That's what we're going after, and that's what Ecclesiastes lays out. So please join us over the next few weeks as we begin this journey and as we walk through the reality of life. But it all starts here. It all starts with this. If you want to experience hope, stop grasping at smoke. Stop grasping at a life that never satisfies. Stop grasping at what you think this world will give to you, as it just comes and goes. We get so duped when we think that time is on our side. When we think, I got enough time, let me just enjoy this day because I can deal with that tomorrow. But when we do that, we lose the sense of the reality that we all have a date. We don't know when that is. And through this series, we're going to be talking through that, what we should expect and not expect in life. You know, Warren Buffett is a billionaire and a businessman in our country. He's an atheist, but he had a really interesting quote not too long ago in a speech he did one time. He said this: if you want to live a good life, write your own obituary and then reverse engineer it. That's a pretty powerful lesson, isn't it? You know, we live in such a way, it's like, hey, life is short, let's make the most of the day. And he's saying, no, if you really want to live well, think, okay, there's going to be an end date. And so when this end date comes, what do I want this to be? What does this look like for me? In other words, what do you want your story to be? What do you want it to be? Because if we know there's a destination, if we know there's a reality with death and there's something beyond that, and I know that's the destination, and that's the one set point I can walk towards, then I need to walk back and, okay, how do I live well to that point, to get there? And it helps determine how I can make the most of this day, which way I should go, what I should focus on most, what really matters. And when we don't know the destination, or we don't come to reality that there is a destination, guess what? Any way the wind blows, it just pulls us. And we just are constantly in the same circle of life. So here's my challenge for you guys today as we wrap up our journey today. And as we prepare for what is about to come, as the teacher guides us through his writing in Ecclesiastes, I'm asking you this week just to take some time, personal time, just to process your own journey. Start to look at life from a different angle, that the reality of death. And ask yourself, what do I want the story of my life to be? When I look back at that last day, or when my days are done and people are talking about me, what do I want my story to tell? What hope was I chasing? What significance was I going after? Was it all about the little achievements in this life, or was it about something beyond this life to a life eternal? Take some time this week to process that. Maybe journal your thoughts out. And come back next week as we continue this journey of how when we live life backwards, man, we can live life well. Let's pray. Father, we thank you so much because of how good you are. And Lord, in this moment, may we just be drawn towards you. Lord, you are the author of life. Jesus said that he has come to give life, not just life, but life more abundantly. But yet so often we try to achieve significance in our life by what this world provides that just comes and goes. It's like a breath. But Lord, help us to adjust our focus with the reality that this life is temporary and there's an eternal picture that we are truly chasing. And that when you are our focus, when that reality is our focus, we can truly live well, a life of hope and significance. And Lord, just help us just to see that and walk with you. It's in your name we pray. Amen.